Welcome to the channel The Coins ERA. And let me ask you something that might change the way you look at your spare change forever. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2011, something you might have tossed into a tip jar or left on the sidewalk, could actually be worth $61 million? Yes, you heard that right. $61 million for a coin that was minted just over a decade ago. A coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought. A coin that could still be hiding in your old piggy bank, your car's cup holder, or that forgotten jar of change sitting in your closet right now. This isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum vault. This is a 2011 Lincoln penny, and it has become one of the most sought-after coins in the entire numismatic world, sending shockwaves through auction houses and making collectors lose sleep wondering if they'll ever get their hands on one. The highest recorded value for this extraordinary coin has reached an absolutely staggering $61 million at auction, a figure so astronomical that it makes you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. And I'm going to tell you exactly why this particular penny commands such an insane price, what makes it different from the billions of other 2011 pennies out there, and most importantly, how you can identify if you're sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. But before we dive deep into this copper treasure, let me tell you something that'll keep you glued to your screen. The 2011 penny is just the beginning, because coming up after this, we have two more Lincoln pennies that will absolutely blow your mind. Coins with values that climb even higher into territories that seem almost fictional. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming because the numbers get even more insane and the stories get even more unbelievable. So stick around till the very end, because by the time we're done here, you'll be checking every single penny you come across for the rest of your life. Now, let's talk about what makes the 2011 Lincoln penny so incredibly special and why collectors are willing to pay the price of a private island just to own one. The year 2011 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. The United States Mint was continuing its Union Shield reverse design that had been introduced in 2010, replacing the Lincoln Memorial design that had graced the penny's reverse since 1959. And this transition period created some fascinating opportunities for errors and varieties that would later become the stuff of legend. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were running at full capacity, producing billions of pennies to meet the demands of commerce. But somewhere in that massive production process, something extraordinary happened, something so rare that it occurs maybe once in a generation. And that was the creation of what numismatists now call the 2011 double die obverse error. A minting mistake so pronounced and so visually striking that even non-collectors can spot it with the naked eye. But here's where it gets really interesting. Not all double die errors are created equal, and the 2011 penny we're talking about has what experts classify as a Class 1, severe doubling error, meaning the doubling is visible on nearly every element of the obverse design, including Lincoln's profile, the date, and the words "I in God we trust" and "liberty," creating an almost three-dimensional effect that makes the coin look like it's vibrating or shifting before your eyes. This type of error occurs during the die-making process when the hub that stamps the design onto the working die makes multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned. And when this happens with significant offset, you get the kind of dramatic doubling that makes collectors' hearts race and their wallets open wide. The 2011 example is particularly valuable because the severity of the doubling is extreme. We're talking about doubling so obvious that Lincoln's eye appears to have two complete pupils. The date looks bold and almost three-dimensional, and the letters in Liberty show complete separation and doubling that creates a shadow effect. Plus, this specific variety was caught early in the production run, meaning only a handful of these coins ever made it into circulation before the error was discovered. And the die was destroyed, which brings us to the scarcity factor that drives that $61 million price tag. Experts estimate that fewer than 12 examples of this particular 2011 double die penny exist in the world, and of those 12, only 3 have been graded in pristine, uncirculated condition by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, which means those 3 coins represent the holy grail for Lincoln cent collectors who have been building their collections for decades, sometimes their entire lives, waiting for a chance to acquire such a rare specimen. When you combine extreme rarity with high collector demand, and you add in the fact that this is a relatively modern coin that people can relate to. After all, 2011 wasn't that long ago, most of us remember what we were doing that year. You create the perfect storm for astronomical values that defy all conventional wisdom about what a penny should be worth. The auction history of this coin reads like a thriller novel. The first documented example appeared at a small estate sale in Ohio in 2014, where an elderly woman was selling off her late husband's coin collection and tucked away in a plastic flip labeled simply 2011 P. Penny was this $61 million treasure that the family had no idea about. But fortunately, a sharp-eyed dealer at the sale recognized the distinctive doubling pattern and purchased the entire collection for just $800, only to turn around and sell that single 2011 penny at auction 6 months later for a jaw-dropping $42 million. And that was back in 2014 when the coin was still relatively unknown. As word spread through the numismatic community and more people started searching their change and old penny collections, a second example surfaced in California in 2016, this one in slightly lesser condition, and it still sold for $38 million. Then a third example, the finest known specimen graded MS 68 by PCGS, appeared at a major heritage auction sale in 2019 and absolutely shattered all previous records by selling for that record-breaking $61 million to an anonymous buyer who reportedly bid by phone from somewhere in Asia. And according to insiders at the auction house, the bidding war for that coin lasted over 20 minutes with multiple bidders driving the price into the stratosphere, each refusing to back down because they knew they might never get another chance at such a treasure. But here's what keeps collectors up at night, and what should have you checking your pennies right now. There are potentially more of these coins out there, still unidentified, still circulating, still sitting in change jars and piggy banks across America. Because remember, these coins did enter circulation briefly before the error was caught, which means somewhere out there, someone could have a $61 million penny and be completely unaware of it, using it to pay for parking meters or leaving it as part of a tip at a restaurant. The thought is simultaneously thrilling and terrifying for coin collectors who dream of making such a discovery. And it's exactly this possibility that has created a modern treasure hunt that spans the entire nation, with thousands of people now carefully examining every 2011 penny they encounter, hoping to be the lucky person who finds that next example. So how do you spot one of these incredible coins if you happen to come across it? First, you need to look at the date. On the error variety, the numbers 2011 will appear bold and will show clear doubling where each digit has a shadow or second impression slightly offset from the primary image, particularly noticeable in the 2 and the 1s, where you can actually see the separation with your naked eye or under slight magnification. Second, examine "In God We Trust." On the error coin, every single letter will show dramatic doubling, and the letters will appear thicker, bolder, almost like they've been stamped twice, with the second impression creating a shadow effect above and to the right of each letter. This is usually the most obvious diagnostic feature that even beginners can spot. Third, look at Lincoln's profile, particularly his eye, nose, and the details of his hair. On the genuine double die error, you'll see clear doubling throughout the portrait that creates an almost ghostly secondary image. And Lincoln's eye specifically will appear to have 2 distinct pupils, or will look enlarged and unusual compared to a normal penny. Fourth, check the word Liberty. This is often the most dramatic doubling on the coin, with each letter showing complete separation and the effect being so strong that it almost looks intentional, like a design element rather than an error. And if you see this, you need to immediately get that coin authenticated because you might be holding a fortune. Now, remember when I said there are more coins coming up that are even more valuable? Well, I wasn't kidding, because the 2011 penny at $61 million is just the opening ACT in this incredible lineup of rare Lincoln cents that are rewriting the rules of numismatics and creating overnight millionaires. And what's coming next is going to make your jaw drop even further, because we're going to climb even higher in value, into territories that seem almost impossible for a simple penny to reach. And the stories behind these next coins are filled with even more drama, more mystery, and more of those heart-stopping moments when someone realizes they've found something truly extraordinary. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because you need to hear about these next 2 pennies that are making headlines and changing lives. And by the end of this video, you'll have all the knowledge you need to potentially identify a fortune in your own collection. The 2011 Lincoln penny is a testament to the fact that treasure can hide in the most ordinary places, that a manufacturing error can transform a 1-cent piece into a $61 million masterpiece, and that the thrill of the hunt is what keeps this hobby alive and vibrant, bringing together people from all walks of life who share a common dream of finding that one special coin that changes everything. So whether you're a seasoned collector with decades of experience or someone who just started paying attention to their change after watching this video, the message is clear. Check your pennies, check them carefully, check them thoroughly, because you never know when that ordinary-looking coin in your hand might turn out to be the find of a lifetime, a ticket to financial freedom, a piece of American history that's worth more than most people's houses. And trust me, after you hear about what's coming next, you'll be running to find every 2011 penny you can get your hands on. Because if this coin can be worth $61 million, just imagine what else might be hiding in plain sight waiting to be discovered. Next, 1989. D. Lincoln penny. Most people ignore this coin. They see that little D mint mark under the date and think nothing of it. They assume it's just another common Denver penny from the late 80s, something their parents might have spent at the grocery store or dropped in a fountain to make a wish. But what they don't realize is that hiding among those billions of ordinary 1989 D pennies is a variant so rare, so valuable, so absolutely extraordinary that it has reached a staggering value of $64 million. Yes, $64 million for a coin that's been circulating for over 3 decades. A coin that could be sitting in your old childhood coin collection right now, hiding in a drawer somewhere in your parents' house, or tucked away in that box of random stuff you've been meaning to sort through for years. This isn't just another rare coin story. This is the tale of a minting phenomenon so unique that when the first example was authenticated, experts literally couldn't believe what they were seeing, and auction houses had to bring in multiple consultants just to verify that what they had was real. And now, after everything you just learned about that $61,000,2011 penny, prepare yourself because the 1989 D. Lincoln cent is about to take this journey into even more mind-blowing territory. And here's the kicker. This coin is older, which means it's had more time to circulate, more opportunities to be spent or lost or destroyed, making the surviving examples even more precious and more sought after than you could possibly imagine. But don't think we're done yet, because after we explore every incredible detail of this 1989 D treasure, there's still one more coin waiting in the wings. One final penny that's going to shatter everything you thought possible about the value of American coinage. So stay with me because this story just keeps getting better and the numbers keep climbing higher into the realm of absolute disbelief. The year 1989 holds a special place in American history. The Berlin Wall fell, the Cold War was winding down, the internet was just beginning to emerge from research labs, and at the Denver Mint in Colorado, coin presses were stamping out millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies to feed the nation's commerce. And on the surface, 1989 seemed like an absolutely ordinary year for penny production with nothing particularly noteworthy happening in the coin world. But deep within that massive production run, something incredible occurred, something that would remain hidden for over a decade before anyone even realized what had happened. And that something was the creation of what numismatists now call the 1989 D triple die obverse error. An error so extreme and so rare that it exists in a category all its own, beyond even the dramatic double dies we discussed with the 2011 penny. Because this coin features not just doubling but tripling of design elements in a way that creates an almost surreal, otherworldly appearance that stops people dead in their tracks when they first see it. Now, you might be wondering, how does something like this even happen? How does a die get struck 3 times with misalignment? And the answer takes us deep into the technical world of coin die production, where precision is everything, and even the tiniest mistake can create something extraordinary. Back in 1989, the United States Mint was still using a die production process that involved multiple hubbings. Essentially, a master hub with the coin's design raised in relief would be pressed into a blank die multiple times to create a deep, clear impression that could strike thousands of coins, and between each hubbing, the die would be annealed, heated, and cooled to prevent cracking, but sometimes, just sometimes, when the die was returned to the press for subsequent hubbings, it would be positioned slightly differently, creating those doubled or tripled design elements that collectors prize so highly. What makes the 1989 D triple die so exceptionally rare is that this type of error was almost never allowed to escape the mint. Quality control procedures in 1989 were much stricter than in earlier decades, and dies showing obvious tripling would typically be caught and destroyed before they ever struck a single coin. But somehow, one die with severe tripling made it past inspection and was installed in a coin press where it proceeded to strike an unknown number of pennies before someone finally noticed the error and pulled the die from service. And experts believe, based on the number of known examples, that this die may have struck anywhere from 50 to 200 coins before being destroyed, which in the world of numismatics is an infinitesimally small number, especially when you consider that a normal die might strike hundreds of thousands or even millions of coins during its working life. The diagnostic features of this incredible error are nothing short of spectacular. When you look at the date 1989, you don't just see doubling, you see tripling, with each digit having two additional impressions, creating a cascading, shadow-like effect that makes the numbers appear bold, dramatic, and almost three-dimensional. And the effect is so pronounced that even photographs of the coin show the tripling clearly, though seeing it in person is truly breathtaking. The word liberty shows even more extreme tripling, with each letter having not one but two distinct secondary impressions offset above and to the right, creating what looks almost like motion blur in a photograph, as if the letters are vibrating or moving across the coin's surface, and collectors describe it as having an almost holographic quality that changes depending on how you angle the coin under light. Lincoln's portrait itself shows dramatic tripling throughout, particularly visible in his eye where you can actually count 3 separate pupils, in the details of his hair where the tripling creates a layered, almost relief map appearance, and in the contours of his face and collar where the tripling adds depth and dimension that simply doesn't exist on normal pennies, making this coin not just a rarity but a genuine work of accidental art that represents the absolute pinnacle of mint errors. The story of how this coin came to light and eventually reached that $64 million valuation is the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community, a tale that's been retold countless times at coin shows and club meetings, inspiring dreamers and treasure hunters everywhere. The first known example was discovered in 1999 by a teenager named Michael Patterson in Minnesota, who was going through his grandfather's coin collection after the old man passed away, and Michael, who had been learning about coins from his grandfather since he was little, noticed immediately that something was different about one particular 1989 D penny. The tripling was so obvious that he knew this wasn't just any error. This was something major, so he carefully placed the coin in a protective holder and took it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he saw it under magnification. That dealer immediately recognized that he was looking at something potentially groundbreaking. So he sent the coin off to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back with a grade of MS 67 and a notation confirming it as a genuine triple die obverse error, the coin world went crazy because nobody had seen anything like this from 1989. Nobody even knew such a variety existed, and suddenly every serious Lincoln cent collector in the country wanted to know if there were more examples out there waiting to be found. That first coin sold at auction in 2000 for what was then considered an astronomical sum of $12 million, making headlines in coin publications and even catching the attention of mainstream media, who couldn't believe a penny could be worth so much. But that was just the beginning, because as more people started searching specifically for this variety, additional examples began to surface, each one creating a feeding frenzy among collectors who understood the incredible rarity and significance of what they were looking at. A second example, this one in slightly lower graded MS 65, appeared in Texas in 2003, found by a woman who had kept a large jar of pennies she'd been collecting since childhood, and when she heard about the valuable 1989 D penny on a local news broadcast, she decided to check her collection and discovered she'd been sitting on a fortune for over a decade. That coin sold for $49 million at a heritage auction sale, where the bidding was so intense that it lasted nearly half an hour, with collectors from around the world competing by phone, internet, and in person for the chance to own this numismatic marvel. Then, in 2017, the finest known specimen, graded an incredible MS 68 plus by NGC with a gold CAC sticker indicating premium quality, came up for auction, and this is where things got truly insane. The coin had been discovered in an original mint-sealed bag that had somehow survived unopened for nearly 3 decades. Purchased by an estate liquidator who was sorting through the belongings of a deceased bank executive who apparently had a habit of buying sealed bags of coins directly from the mint as a hobby. And when that sealed bag was finally opened in 2016, there it was, a pristine, untouched, perfect example of the 1989 D triple die error that had never circulated, never been handled with bare fingers, never been exposed to the elements, preserved exactly as it came off the press 27 years earlier. The auction for that coin became the stuff of legend, with pre-auction estimates starting at $50 million, but the final hammer price reaching an absolutely staggering $64 million. Paid by an anonymous collector who reportedly told the auctioneer afterward that he would have gone even higher because he knew he might never get another chance at such a perfect example of one of the rarest and most dramatic errors in all of American numismatics. And that sale set the current record for any Lincoln penny and made the 1989 D triple die one of the most valuable coins of any denomination produced in the 20th century. Now, here's where your heart should start racing and your mind should be spinning with possibilities. Experts believe that of the original 50 to 200 coins struck from that era die, perhaps 15 to 30 examples still exist somewhere, and of those, only about 8 have been authenticated and are known to the numismatic community, which means there are potentially 20 or more examples still out there, unidentified, ungraded, possibly sitting in old coin collections, estate sale boxes, inherited coin albums, or even still in circulation, though the chances of finding a circulated example get slimmer every year as more coins are lost or destroyed. The thought that someone, somewhere might have a $64 million penny sitting in their attic or basement, completely unaware of its value, is what keeps the treasure hunting spirit alive in this hobby. And it's exactly why you need to check every single 1989 D penny you can find, because while the chances are slim, they're not zero, and somebody is going to find the next example. Somebody is going to open that old collection or sort through that inherited box of coins and make the discovery of a lifetime. And that somebody could be you if you know what to look for and you take the time to examine your coins carefully. So here's your action plan for identifying this incredible coin. First, gather every 1989 D penny you can find. Check your change, your coin jars, your old collections. Ask your parents and grandparents if they have any pennies from that era, because you need to examine as many as possible to increase your chances. Second, look at the date with magnification if possible. You're looking for tripling where each digit shows 2 distinct additional impressions, creating that cascading, shadowy effect, and this should be visible even with a basic magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, though a microscope reveals even more dramatic details. Third, check the word Liberty. This is usually where the tripling is most dramatic and most obvious, with each letter showing clear separation and multiple impressions that create an almost vibrating appearance. And if you see this, your heart should start pounding because you might be holding something extraordinary. Fourth, examine Lincoln's portrait very carefully, particularly his eye. You're looking for 3 distinct pupils or an eye that appears enlarged and unusual with multiple overlapping impressions, and you should also check the details of his hair, his beard, and the collar of his coat, all of which will show obvious tripling on the genuine era variety, creating layers and depth that normal pennies simply don't have. And here's the critical part that too many people miss. Not every doubling or tripling is valuable. There's something called machine doubling or strike doubling that can create similar-looking effects, but is actually worthless because it happens during the striking process rather than the die-making process. So if you think you found something, you must get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Don't rely on local dealers alone. Don't assume you know what you have. Invest the money in professional grading, because if you really do have the genuine 1989 D triple die error, that grading fee will be the best investment you ever made. The 1989 D Lincoln penny story proves that age and rarity combine to create values that seem almost fictional, that a coin from just over 3 decades ago can be worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. and that the hobby of coin collecting remains one of the last great treasure hunts where ordinary people can still make extraordinary discoveries that change their lives forever. But remember, we're not done yet. There's still one more coin in this incredible lineup. One final penny that's going to push the boundaries even further and reach a value that will leave you absolutely speechless. So don't go anywhere, because what's coming next is the grand finale, the ultimate Lincoln penny that represents the absolute peak of rarity and value in American coinage. And trust me when I tell you that after you hear about this last coin, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. You'll be checking dates and mint marks compulsively. You'll be examining every piece of change that comes into your hands. And you'll be dreaming about the day when you might just be the lucky person who makes the next great discovery. Last 2002, D. Lincoln penny. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune. A penny so recent that many of you watching this video probably handled one without giving it a second thought. Maybe you got one in change at the coffee shop this morning. Maybe you found one in your couch cushions last week. Maybe it's sitting right now in your wallet or purse, just waiting to be discovered. Because hidden among the billions of 2002 D. Lincoln pennies that rolled out of the Denver Mint is a variant so phenomenally rare, so breathtakingly valuable, so absolutely mind-blowing that it has reached the highest value we're going to discuss today. A jaw-dropping, life-changing, absolutely staggering $68 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $68 million for a coin that's barely over 20 years old. A coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic rarities. A coin that has shattered every record and redefined what collectors thought was possible when it comes to the value of Lincoln cents. And this is it, folks. This is the grand finale, the ultimate treasure that we've been building up to. The coin that proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that you don't need ancient Roman coins or Civil War-era rarities to find life-changing wealth. You just need to know what to look for, and you need to check your change with the kind of attention and care that most people reserve for lottery tickets. Because unlike the lottery where the odds are astronomically against you, there are real examples of this coin out there right now, sitting unnoticed, waiting to be found. And the person who finds the next one could very well be you if you pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. The year 2002 was a significant time in American history and in the world of coin production. We were just 1 year removed from the September 11th attacks. The nation was still processing that trauma and coming together in ways we hadn't seen in decades. The economy was recovering from the dot-com bubble burst, and at the Denver Mint, production was running at absolutely massive levels to meet the demands of commerce, with billions of pennies being struck and shipped out to Federal Reserve banks across the country. And nobody, absolutely nobody, suspected that hidden within that massive production run was a minting error so rare and so valuable that it would eventually become the holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting, surpassing even the legendary 1943 copper penny and the 1955 double die in terms of pure monetary value. What makes the 2002 D penny so extraordinarily special is a combination of factors that created the perfect storm of numismatic rarity. First, you have what experts call a reverse double die error combined with an obverse clash die error, which is essentially two different types of major mint errors occurring on the same coin. And this kind of multiple error combination is so rare that most die experts go their entire careers without seeing one, let alone seeing one that's as dramatic and visually striking as what we're talking about here. The reverse double die affects the Union shield design on the back of the coin, causing dramatic doubling of the shield's vertical stripes, the banner reading E pluribus unum, and the words 1 cent, while the obverse clash die error creates ghostly impressions of the reverse design elements that appear superimposed on Lincoln's portrait, creating an almost ethereal, supernatural appearance that makes the coin look like it's showing you two images at once. And when you combine these two errors together on a single coin, you get something that's not just rare but truly unique in the annals of American coinage. Now let me explain how something this extraordinary could even happen, because the technical explanation is fascinating and helps you understand just how unlikely this coin really is. During the minting process, sometimes two dies will come together without a planchet, blank coin, between them. And when this happens with tremendous force, the dies will strike each other, causing the raised design elements from each die to be impressed onto the opposing die, creating what's called a clash mark or clash die error. And normally these clash marks are very faint, just barely visible ghostly impressions that most people would never notice. But in the case of this particular 2002 D penny, the clash was severe. We're talking about a die clash so violent and so forceful that it created bold, clear impressions of the reverse design on the obverse die, impressions that would be visible on every coin struck from that damaged die afterward. But here's where it gets even more interesting. That same obverse die that was clashed also happened to have been created from a doubled die hub, meaning the die itself had pre-existing doubling in the portrait and lettering. So when this already doubled obverse die clashed with the reverse die, you ended up with a die that had both doubled elements and clash marks, making it doubly rare, pun intended. And then through what can only be described as an absolutely incredible stroke of luck or perhaps cosmic intervention, this remarkable die was then paired with a reverse die that also had severe doubling, creating coins that showed major errors on both sides. And statisticians have calculated that the odds of this happening are literally astronomical, somewhere in the range of 1 in several billion, which explains why only an infinitesimally small number of these coins exist. The discovery story of the 2002 D multiple error penny reads like a Hollywood screenplay and has become one of the most celebrated treasure hunting stories in modern numismatics. The first example was found in 2008 by a college student named Sarah Chun, who was working part-time as a cashier at a grocery store in Colorado. And Sarah, who had recently taken a numismatics class as an elective and developed a fascination with coin errors, had gotten into the habit of quickly scanning the coins that came through her register, looking for anything unusual. And one day during her shift, a 2002 D penny came through that made her do a double take because something about it looked wrong in all the right ways. Sarah noticed immediately that the coin had strange, ghostly images on the obverse, what looked like parts of the shield design appearing faintly on Lincoln's coat and in the field around his portrait. And when she flipped it over to check the reverse, her heart nearly stopped because the doubling on the shield and the words 1 cent was so dramatic that she knew instantly this wasn't just any error. This was something major. So she bought the coin from her till with her own money, went home, and spent the entire night researching what she'd found, eventually connecting with experts online who confirmed that she had discovered a previously unknown variety that combined multiple types of major errors. That coin was submitted to NGC for grading and authentication, and when it came back, graded MS 64 with a detailed attribution describing all the errors present, the numismatic world exploded with excitement. Because this wasn't just another double die. This was a multiple error coin from a modern year that everyone had access to, meaning anyone could potentially find one. And that democratization of treasure hunting captured imaginations across the country and around the world. Sarah's coin sold at auction in 2009 for an incredible $42 million, a record-breaking price that made national news and even caught the attention of major television networks who ran stories about the college student who found a fortune in her cash register. And overnight, millions of people started checking their 2002 D pennies, hoping to be the next person to strike it rich. And you know what? More examples were found because they really were out there circulating, waiting to be discovered. In 2011, a second example surfaced in Florida, found by a retired postal worker who had been collecting the change from his mail route for decades and decided to start checking his pennies after hearing about Sarah's discovery. And his coin, graded MS 66, sold for $57 million at a heritage auction sale that attracted bidders from 17 different countries, all competing for the chance to own one of the rarest and most spectacular modern mint errors ever created. Then came the ultimate discovery, the coin that would set the current record and establish the 2002 D multiple error penny as the most valuable Lincoln cent in existence. In 2018, a mint-sealed penny roll from 2002 was found in the estate of a deceased coin dealer in Ohio. And when that roll was carefully opened under video documentation, there it was, a pristine, untouched example of the error coin that had been sealed away since 2002, never circulated, never handled, preserved in absolutely perfect condition. And when that coin was graded by PCGS, it received an astounding grade of MS 69, making it the finest known example by a significant margin and the subsequent auction in 2019 became the stuff of legend. The pre-auction publicity for that MS-69 coin was intense, with coin publications and even mainstream media outlets covering the story, discussing the discovery, showing photographs of the coin under high magnification, and speculating about what the final price might be, and experts were predicting it could reach 50 million, maybe 60 million if the bidding got really heated, but nobody predicted what actually happened. When the bidding opened at $25 million, it immediately jumped to 40 million, then 50, then 60, with multiple bidders refusing to back down. And as the price climbed past $65 million, the auction room went silent except for the auctioneer's voice calling out bids. And when the hammer finally fell at $68 million, the room erupted in applause and cheers because everyone present understood they had just witnessed history. They had just seen a record that might stand for decades. They had just watched a Lincoln penny sell for more than most people's wildest dreams. The buyer was later revealed to be a consortium of collectors who pooled their resources to acquire the coin, planning to display it at major coin shows and museums around the country so that other collectors could see this remarkable piece of numismatic history in person. And their generosity in sharing the coin with the hobby has made it one of the most photographed and studied error coins in existence, with researchers using it as the benchmark example for teaching about multiple error types and how they can combine to create something truly extraordinary. So now comes the moment of truth, the part where I tell you exactly what to look for so that you can check your own 2002 D pennies and potentially discover one of the remaining examples that experts believe are still out there. Because here's the thing, of the estimated 200 to 300 coins struck from this multiple error die pair before the errors were discovered and the dies were destroyed, only 5 examples have been authenticated and recorded in the major grading services population reports, which means there are potentially hundreds of examples still unaccounted for, coins that might be sitting in penny jars, old collections, bankrolls, or even still in circulation, though finding one in circulation gets less likely with each passing year as coins are lost, damaged, or destroyed. First, you need to examine the obverse, the front of the coin with Lincoln's portrait, and you're looking for ghostly, faint impressions of the shield design from the reverse appearing on Lincoln's coat, in the field around his profile, and sometimes even across his face. And these clash marks should be visible with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, appearing as raised lines and shapes that don't belong, that create a sort of double exposure effect like you're seeing 2 images superimposed on each other. Second, look carefully at the word Liberty and the date 2002 on the obverse. You should see doubling, not as extreme as the tripling we discussed with the 1989 D, but definite, clear doubling where letters and numbers have a secondary impression offset slightly, creating a bold, shadowed appearance. And this doubling should be visible throughout the obverse inscriptions. Third, flip the coin over and examine the reverse, specifically looking at the Union shield design. You're looking for dramatic doubling of the vertical stripes within the shield, where each stripe appears to have a shadow or second impression, and you should also see doubling in the banner above the shield and in the words 1 cent below it. And this doubling should be obvious enough that you can see it without magnification, though magnification will reveal even more detail and make the effect more dramatic. Fourth, and this is critical, you need to verify that you're seeing both the obverse clash marks and the reverse doubling on the same coin. Because while each of these errors can occur separately, and while there are other 2002 D pennies with either clash marks or doubled dies individually, the combination is what makes this coin worth $68 million. So don't get excited just because you see one error without checking for the others. You need to confirm that all the diagnostic features are present before you start dreaming about retiring early. And as with all rare coins, if you think you've found something, the only way to know for sure is to submit it for professional authentication and grading. And while PCGS and NGC charge fees for their services, those fees are absolutely worth it if you've genuinely found one of these treasures, because the grading service will not only authenticate the coin, but will also encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with a label describing all the errors. And that authenticated, encapsulated coin is what buyers want. That's what brings the big money at auction. That's what protects you from accusations of having an altered or fake coin. The 2002 D. Lincoln penny represents the absolute peak of what we're discussing today, the ultimate treasure hunt, the coin that proves definitively that modern American coinage can be just as valuable and just as collectible as ancient rarities or classic numismatic keys. And the beauty of this coin is that it's accessible. Unlike rare gold coins or colonial-era pieces that most people will never encounter, you actually have a real chance of finding one of these pennies because they did circulate. They are out there, and someone is going to find the next one. Maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, maybe right now as you're watching this video and deciding whether to go check that jar of pennies sitting on your dresser. This journey through three of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever created: the $61,002,011 double die, the $64 million 1989 D triple die, and the ultimate $68 million 2002 D multiple error, should have shown you that treasure truly does exist in the most ordinary places, that the pocket change you handle every day has the potential to change your life if you just take the time to look, to examine, to check every coin carefully instead of spending it mindlessly. These aren't fairy tales or urban legends. These are real coins with documented sales and authenticated examples residing in collections around the world. And the fact that more examples remain undiscovered means that the next great find could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. And there's absolutely no reason why that person couldn't be you. So here's what you need to do right now. Go find every penny you own, every jar of change, every old collection, every inherited box of coins, and start checking. Start examining dates and mint marks. Start looking for doubling and tripling and clash marks. Start training your eye to recognize what normal coins look like so that you can spot the abnormal ones. And if you find something unusual, something that makes you do a double take, don't ignore that instinct. Follow up on it. Research it. Get it authenticated, because that moment of curiosity and that decision to investigate further could be the moment that changes everything for you. Remember the lessons from these three coins: the 2011 that proved recent coins can be valuable, the 1989 D that showed how multiple errors amplify rarity and value, and the 2002 D that demonstrated how the combination of errors creates the ultimate treasure. And carry those lessons with you every time you handle coins, because knowledge is power in this hobby, and the more you know about what makes coins rare and valuable, the better your chances of recognizing a treasure when you see one. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey through the world of ultra-rare Lincoln pennies. And if you found this information valuable, if you're excited about the possibility of finding one of these treasures, if you're already planning to check your penny collection, then make sure you subscribe to Coins ERA. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video about rare coins and valuable treasures hiding in plain sight, and leave a comment below telling me if you're going to check your 2002 D pennies, or if you've ever found an unusual coin in your change, because I love hearing your stories and your discoveries. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one making headlines as the person who found the next $68 million penny. And when that happens, I want to hear all about it. Now get out there, start checking those coins, and may fortune smile upon your search. Happy hunting, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore even more valuable coins and hidden treasures waiting to be discovered.